All right, I came up with this list so fast, I will say. Here's
Okay.
the so did you do since 2000? I mean in my head it was since 2000.
Yeah.
Okay, so NBA Finals since 2000. This is by far my most biased list, without a doubt.
Okay.
Like this
So you
this
weren't you
list
were
was made entirely based on bias.
okay. So you weren't even trying to go no bias.
No, I accepted very quickly that I was just going to go full bias,
Okay. I
and
had a
and
feeling it
that
was gonna
made
be
it
something like that.
so easy.
Okay. I'm excited. So we're gonna have very different lists then, because I
Yeah,
I went no bias.
I know. I wonder how much overlap we're going to have. It could be small. It could be very small.
Yeah, I'm
And
trying to think of.
I'll explain my process at the end because it's a very clear-cut process.
I was gonna say, thinking about you being biased, the finals that come to mind right now are all finals I did not choose. So
Okay.
unless I'm unless
Interesting.
I'm unless I'm wrong, if you being biased is what I imagine it to be,
Which it probably is,
yeah,
because I'm
then
not very private
with your
about my
NBA,
feelings towards the NBA.
yeah. So I'm ready. I'm excited.
We'll see. We'll see.
I'll,
You
I'll
know, and
I'll
I
be
think
I'll be
part of it
the
also, I wanted to keep it a little bit lighter with my list today after our 3 hour text debate last night
dude. I'm not even gonna
with no
lie.
result.
I just I can't. I don't even remember what happened in the Celtics game other than the Celtics were playing bad. Tatum was playing bad, and then they won.
Honestly,
I wasn't even paying attention. I was just too locked in on arguing with you.
I feel that last night's game was sort of one of those games that even if you did watch it, it was sort of just like stuff was happening, and
Yeah. I mean,
it was definitely not as eventful as some of the other ones this series,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, but I can't believe they won.
I
It,
honestly think they'll win the series. That just seems like a Celtics thing to do right now with this team, is like
yeah,
kind of choke and choke and choke, and then pull it together in the last two games. Like they'll figure it out at home in Game 7, and then maybe they'll like lose to the Heat or something. I don't know.
yeah. To say the way you felt about the Celtics last year is starting to be the way I feel about them. Just
It
the
never
like,
changed for me. I haven't seen
yeah.
they
See,
haven't given me
but
any reason to
yeah,
change my opinion.
my thing was always like they look good last year. They're playing good defense. There's like concerning ways that they're losing, but they're young, and I was like, I believe they could turn around. Then they lose in the finals, and Tatum doesn't show up. And then it's like it just those issues have still been the issues. When they're losing, it's the same issues all year, and now in the playoffs, it's like so. It
Yeah.
just it's getting nerve wracking, but we'll see.
As someone who knows basketball, do you think Tatum has trouble creating shots? I have honestly yet to, and more so towards the end of the game and stuff, when like that they want him to take the shot or whatever. I just feel that he has such a hard time creating any kind of like space to give himself a shot, unless it's a situation where he can drive for a layup. That's the only time it really. Otherwise, it almost just feels like playing like 2K against the computer, where he's like crossing over and this and that, and he's just not creating anything.
Yeah, I don't know because he is so crafty, but it just like it seems like the bigger thing in the big moments is he just like gets in his own head.
Hmm.
I remember like last year in the finals, it looked to me at least just glaringly like the moment was just too bright and he just kind of shrunk away. Um, and it seems like he'll play good basketball a lot where he's very much like moving the ball if someone's open, like just trying to attack, like play the right way. But almost then he gets like too indecisive down the stretch and he'll turn the ball
Interesting.
over or he'll just I don't know. It's hard. I don't know what it is because it's weird. But I also
Yeah.
like as and I don't watch the Celtics a ton, but you look at his numbers and I'm like, I feel like I never see him play the
Hmm.
way his numbers suggest he normally plays.
Yeah.
It's weird, but
Who
I don't know.
knows? Only
Hopefully they
time will
can win.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
All right. So NBA Finals since 2000. Do you want to kick it off, or do you want to get a taste of how this is going to
I
go
want
for
to get a
me?
taste. I want to get a taste of where you're at.
I'll start it off with hmm, maybe I don't know if this is the weakest one on paper necessarily, but I have it at 4 on my list. I have 2021 Bucks over Suns, and the reason I have it on here is because, and I know we talked about this at the time. I think even was it was just such a refreshing final.
Hmm.
It wasn't. There was no Warriors. There was no LeBron. There
Hmm.
was none of these kind of legacy teams. It was a final where no matter who won, it was going to be their first. I love seeing guys like Giannis get a title in
Hmm.
any sport, not just basketball, any sport. Guys that are loyal and stick to their team
Hmm.
and deserve titles and finally get it.
Hmm.
And then I don't really remember watching that much of this final because, um, I hate the 9 o'clock starts. Um, but
It is brutal.
but it was also just two teams that you're kind of okay with either of them winning, partially because neither of them are really that significant um, where we're from. But it it was just kind of a nice, refreshing, pleasant final where it was sort of like, I'll be happy whoever wins this. Just want to see good basketball. You got guys on both teams that are deserving of winning.
Mhm.
So it comes in at 4 for me.
It's at 4 for me as well.
Whoa,
Who would have thought? So I
I'm really
this
surprised actually.
yeah, so this was a great finals in my opinion. I didn't get to watch the first two games of the series. I was gone on like a trip, so I didn't have TV for when those were being played.
Hmm.
But the first two, 3 games of the series, if you look at them, they're not like super close. Um, there was Suns won by 13, then 10, then Bucks won by 20. But the last 3 games were all just really good games. And kind of a lot of what you said. I love, like, I hate when it's just like big market, you know who's going to make it. Like
Yeah.
these are teams that have just kind of built the right way. Um, like the Suns, I guess they signed Chris Paul, but they were a team that built through the draft, drafting Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, all those guys, and they were so bad, and they built quickly up to a good team. Bucks are another team. They just drafted really good players, just a likable group. And they played great basketball. There was a lot of just great like individual performances that were super exciting. Like Giannis is just a superstar. His 50-point game to close out the series in game
Hmm.
6 has to be top 5 playoff performances ever in NBA history. So it's just like incredible. And there was so many of those games had incredible finishes, a lot of signature plays. Like I think can think of Giannis's block on Ayton on a lob, which I think was game 5, which realistically I think is either the most impressive or second most impressive block in NBA history. Um, and when you factor the moment, it's got to be top 2 as well. Because it basically saved a game. There was an incredible lob. They had just a lot of great plays and finishing this down the stretch with just really, really great games. A lot of what I look at when I'm looking at a good series is like how many games does the series go, but even more so
Hmm.
like are the games close? Are they good games? And I think especially when a series like finishes with a bunch of good games, that's just all you can ask for. So the last few games to finish it out were just incredible. It was a tight fought, good series. One of my favorites. That playoffs that we talked about, it was just refreshing after
Yeah.
the years of LeBron, and then this is the first year without the Warriors after they went 5 in a row. Or no, that's not true because it was the bubble, but LeBron was there.
Right.
And so it was refreshing to see two
LeBron
new,
with the Lakers too, like
yeah,
double whammy on that year.
gross. So I have it for as well. I love this finals.
Wow, I'm a little bit surprised by that. I definitely agree. The if there was going to be like half the series is lopsided and half the series is close, you'd obviously rather it be the closing games
Mhm.
being the close ones. Because
And it,
if you have close games at the beginning and then it's kind of blowouts towards the end, those games kind of maybe could get forgotten. And then
right,
obviously if it's
right,
blowouts at the beginning, but it finishes really, really good, people
yeah,
will not really care that the first couple games weren't super close.
right. And to be fair, the Suns winning by 10 in game 2. That's not really a blowout by NBA standards,
Mm,
but it's not like a super close.
right. It's
Um,
not clutch time.
no, it's not. It's not clutch time. But you still like there were so many great performances. Like I'm just looking at box scores. Like Giannis had 42 in game 2, 41 in game 3, 50 in game 6, obviously. Booker had 42 in game 4. Booker had 40 in game 5. So it's like just a lot of great individual performances too. So you're seeing
Hmm.
like the stars of teams really take over in the playoffs, which is what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But it's still like good basketball. Like there was just two really good teams. So I love the series.
Cool. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better about putting that one in at least. It almost slid
Yeah.
in at 5, but I bumped it up to 4.
All right.
So what's your first entry besides that one?
Yeah. All right. I'll go with one that I'm gonna guess that you don't have then.
Okay.
It's a 2010 Celtics Lakers series.
Correct.
The Lakers win in 7.
Correct.
I have it at 2.
Okay.
Um, I mean, if we're being not biased, incredible series. The history of Celtics Lakers, obviously, if you know the NBA, this is the rivalry that has spanned um, the entirety of the league. Especially, this is 2 years after the Celtics had beat them in '08. So they
Hmm.
kind of were rekindling this rivalry with Kobe and the Paul Pierce Big Three Celtics. It goes 7 games, which there's not a ton of series in our lifetime that have done that. And then on top of that, after it goes 7, the last game of the series, game 7, was a phenomenal game that came down to the wire. Meta World Peace. I think he was Meta World Peace at the time and not Ron Artest. Hits a huge three. I forget I think puts him up 4. I don't remember the exact details, but big three at the end. It was just the significance of it historically. Goes 7 games, such a battle, such a great series. I know as a Celtics fan that you are, and someone from Boston who doesn't like the Lakers, it does sadden me that they didn't finish the job. But and they were up. The Celtics were up 3-2 and then got killed in Game 6 at home, which is pretty. They scored 67 points.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine seeing a team score 67 in a game right now?
No,
Absurd.
no,
But
I can't. That would be like high school.
yeah. Either way, it's such a good series. Lots of close games, hard fought games. Um, and unfortunately, a big Lakers win, but in an incredible Game 7. It's hard to not have it on the list when it goes the distance, 7 games, and the final game is such a good one too. Um, got to be up there, so I put it at 2.
Yeah, not on my list. Lakers winning disqualified it. But that was like the peak of like '08 to 2010 was probably like my peak of enjoying basketball, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it was never really quite the same for me. And for reasons maybe we'll touch on later when
Mm-hmm.
I reveal my logic behind my
Mm-hmm.
list.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
but
will say the early 2010s, those are like the glory days to me. Those are the glory days. But
okay, I'll submit an entry from the early 2010s.
okay,
I have 2011 as number 2 on my list.
sounds about right.
Yep. Dallas Mavericks beat the Miami Heat, and the reason that this is number 2 on my list is, because it's that first final with the Miami Big Three, and I just think it's hilarious that they lost their first final. Like they put this together, they had LeBron's whole thing about how many championships they were going to win, and then they failed their first time. Obviously, they did end up getting a couple, but I just think that was so good. And then like I said with Giannis, Dirk gets a ring.
Love
That's
to see that.
that's awesome. Especially since it was sort of, I guess not necessarily the end of his career, but he was definitely on the back end, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, so it's nice that he was able to close it out and get one. Those Mavericks uniforms back then, I remember really, really liking as well. So I kind of like the Mavericks
Mm-hmm.
for that as well. That like deep navy blue alternate that just says Mavs on the front
Mm-hmm.
with the kind of lighter, maybe not quite royal blue accents was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Um, so yeah, the Mavs taking down the Heat was just, yeah, one of my favorites. So number 2.
Yeah, that adds up. That adds up for you. Uh, I will say to actually give the series credit in a good objective way as a basketball fan, it was a phenomenal series. As a fellow LeBron hater as well, I do like that this has to be the worst blemish on LeBron's career. The fact that he
Mhm.
made it with a great team and he played horrible. Um, but regardless, it was a phenomenal series. Goes 6 games. It was pretty back and forth throughout. Heat go up 2-1, and the Mavericks took the last 3. But just some really close games here. Game 2, 3, and 4 were all decided by 2, 2, and then 3 points. So there was a lot of close games. Dirk hit a game winner, which I believe was game 2. Um, and then they win by 10 in game 6. Solid game, but they're just a better team. And like you said, really fun group to see win because they had, like, Dirk is a superstar, but he was, like you said, he was older.
Mhm.
And then other than that, they didn't have a lot of superstars. They had a lot of guys that were good, like later in their careers. The Jason Kidds,
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
Sean.
say, was he still on that team?
Yeah, and so I mean, Jason Kidd and Sean Marion were 2 perennial all stars, but they were just later in their careers at this point.
Hmm.
Tyson Chandler was a phenomenal center. He had shooting from Jason Terry. They're just like just a really solid team. Um, that just kind of you look at and like it's nice to see them win a finals. Nice to see Dirk have a ring.
Right.
So it was a great one in my honorable mentions, but didn't make my list.
Nice.
I guess I'll go on that vein though. The 2006 Heat versus Mavericks finals, where the Heat
Okay.
won, made my list, and I have it at 3.
Okay.
Um, so this is the
Shaq.
the Shaq and D Wade year. This is really when D Wade became like a superstar because he had a just
Hmm.
absolutely incredible finals performance, averaged 30 something a game. Um, this is ironically back when the Mavericks were probably at their best, where they were really dominant. They made the finals, and the next year they won 67 games, and iconically lost in the first round. But um, this series made my list just for a couple reasons. And the biggest one is just the number of really solid games. So again, it's a series that goes 6. Um, and if you look at it, the deciding game of the series, game 6, the Heat win by 3. They win game 5 by 1, and they won game 3 by 2. So they barely win by 2 in game 3, which would have put them down 3-0 if they had lost because the Mavs took the first 2 games of the series. And then winning game 5 by 1, putting them up 3-2, it like completely changes it. And then to finish in such a good game. Another one where you just have an iconic performance by Dwayne Wade, where he really just puts a team on his back in a lot of ways. They're a good team. Obviously, Shaq is Shaq. But just puts on like an absolute superstar performance for a series. Has to be one of the best finals performances when you look at like the collective series in our lifetime. There's been a lot of incredible ones, but it's got to be somewhere in probably the 5 to 10 range, maybe higher even. But just a really great series. I wish it was one of those. I wish I could have been around to actually watch it live and
Yeah.
experience it. But you look at like the stats. I've watched so many highlights. Just really great series. So I have it there at 3.
Solid pick. Are you I'm sure you must be. Are you aware that Dwayne Wade's name is spelled wrong?
I'm aware that it's spelled weird. Yeah.
But like phonetically, for it to be Dwayne
Yep.
is
Is it
spelled wrong.
how it's spelled? What
D W
DWA?
Y A N E. And
Oh
so
yeah.
the A and the Y are
Or
switched. So
yeah.
it's phonetically it should be like Dwayne or something
Yeah.
like
It's
that.
hey, go for him. Good
One of
for
those
you.
things, that if you don't know about it,
You'll never
you
notice.
would read it normally.
Yeah.
Your brain would trick you into
Right. You just read
seeing
it
it the
so
normal
quickly.
way.
It's
Yeah.
funny. Someone has showed that me before. It may have even been you, but it's
I always
funny.
have to check it too. I always
Yeah.
have to
Because
double
you always
check
feel
it
like
because I'm
there's
like,
no
there's
way it's
no
true.
chance. Yeah. Um, I like that Shaq got another ring in that one. Shaq, all time cool guy.
All time cool guy. Great
Shaq
player.
and Dwayne Wade, just like I feel like that's just a great combo.
Yeah.
I this one I couldn't put on just because I never watched it, and I haven't, unlike some other sports, I haven't really like gone back and watched NBA finals.
Yeah.
So I'm not too knowledgeable about it, but
Sure.
um, so I also can't dispute it because of that.
There you
So
go.
free pass for you, I suppose.
I'll take it.
um, let's see here. So I said my number 2. I said my number 4. Um, I'll just get my number 1 out of the way. You probably know what it is already. Um, right in the peak of my basketball interest. Celtics over Lakers 2008, big
No.
3.
No.
Um, I actually have a souvenir ball somewhere from that
Really?
championship. Yeah, not like an actual ball, like a little small one
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
has like
Oh
a
yeah.
it has like one of the panels is painted white and then it has like champions or something on it. Um, I love the big 3 back then. Ray Allen was, I think, my favorite member of the big 3. Um,
And then he probably broke your heart, huh? He left for
eh,
LeBron.
I didn't care about basketball that much at that point,
Yeah,
so it was
that's
fine.
fair.
But man, Ray Allen was just so money back then, and he just looked so cool. Also, but obviously love Pierce as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, Celtics Lakers, you kind of touched on it already with your pick, with
Hmm.
the 2010 one. But the fact that I wish it had happened maybe a couple of years later, so that we were a little bit older to remember it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
the fact that that happened twice in 3 years
Yeah.
was awesome.
Hmm.
It could happen this. I mean, if it happens this, the only thing I will say, I remember texting you that I don't care what happens with the Celtics this summer after the Bruins. Um,
If they
but
go,
if it's Celtics versus LeBron's Lakers, then I might
look,
care. But not
yeah.
because it's not because it's the Celtics, just because it's LeBron probably. Um,
Never seen a
so
guy. I've never seen a guy hate an athlete so strongly when he doesn't care about the sport. Like there's just no way like I've ever seen this before. But I love it. I love it. But it's so funny.
that's how you know it's warranted because
Yeah, that's how
it
you
draws me into a sport that I do not really care what
absolutely.
happens.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, the '08 finals was just, I mean, yeah, it'll probably always be my favorite finals just because of the time that it happened and the result and stuff like that.
yeah, I mean I couldn't put it on the list because um game 6, the score was 131 to 92. Like as a
Celtics take
closeout,
care of business, man.
that's just I'm sorry. That's not like I can't call this one of the greatest series ever if you go 6 games and the last one is just a dismantling of a team. As great as it is, I just can't have it on my list. But I obviously with how you're doing your list, it makes me
Yeah, this is not the greatest series list for me.
I,
This is just favorite.
yeah, I could have told you that was coming. So
Yeah, I figured you probably expected that, so I'll just get it out of the way now.
yeah.
Big 3, man, and Big 3 had they had that awesome Sports Center commercial too,
Hmm.
where they were just all walking around the office together. Yeah,
Hmm.
that was a great time, man.
Yeah.
Great time, and
Great time.
it was also, people will always bring up the big 3 as like, oh, they started the super team thing. but that was still more of like an organic, like they did that through trades and whatnot, right? As opposed to like, hey, my friend is playing for that team and he's really good and I'm going to sign with them.
Hmm.
Um, so
I mean,
definitely a different,
yeah, the super team started with Miami because it was
yeah,
two guys signing with Miami
right,
because they couldn't beat Boston. But
right,
um, all right, so I have my two, three, four. I guess
okay.
we'll go with what is considered a bold take probably on my part, but seeing your list, I'm sure you won't have it. And that's the 2016 Cavs versus Warriors. I have it five.
2016 Cavs were. Oh, so you're saying it's bold because it's low?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So obviously, it's the most I probably the most iconic finals of our lifetime, um, because the Warriors had set the NBA wins record that year. Steph Curry is the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. Sets the record for 3-point makes in a season. Kobe retired that year, had that 60-point game. It's just kind of an iconic year for the NBA.
Mhm.
And then obviously, even with that, the Warriors go up 3-1. LeBron and the Cavs come back to win. Only time in NBA Finals history that's ever happened down 3-1. LeBron wins in Cleveland, gives them their first championship in forever. Him being the kid from Akron finally wins for Cleveland.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and the game seven was a phenomenal, super iconic game. LeBron has the block that
Yeah.
everyone talks about right now is the greatest play they've ever seen. People forget that he couldn't score in the last like 2 minutes, and so Kyrie had to hit a three to win it, but it was an iconic shot. Um, so it was phenomenal. Like obviously the crazy comeback, it goes 7 games, such an iconic and just phenomenal game seven. The reason I have it five is that
Because of
no,
the jerseys.
oh, okay, you want the sleeve jerseys? That's
Yeah.
my reason I
The
have it.
Cavs love those jerseys.
That's all they ever wore.
I know.
It, so the reason I have it five is because these are the scores of the games. Ready?
Mm.
So the Warriors win game one and two. They win 104 to 89, then 110 to 77. Then the Cavs win 120 to 90. Then the Warriors win 108 to 97. Cavs win 112 to 97. Cavs win 115 to 101. Then Cavs win by 4, 93-89 game seven. Outside of that game seven, there wasn't a great game in there. Like,
Hmm.
so it just to me, even if you go 7 games, it's not like none of the games were super exciting. Um, and so that's why I have it at five. The reason it's on the list is because it was seven. Game seven was so amazing, and then the fact that it was
Hmm.
a 3-1 comeback, it is pretty historic. Um, but it just when you actually look at the series, I don't think I can say that it was a better series than the four I have above it. Um, so
I think that's fair.
mhm.
2016 is I mean that's the year people always go back to and any like when COVID happened and whatever, people everyone was sort of just like, wow, 2016 was the best it's gonna get in a long time. And they would pull out like this series and the Cubs won the
That was
World
I was gonna say that was the
Series
Cubs
and
Cleveland, right? Yeah.
what
Patriots
else
win the
happened in
world.
20
No,
the
sort of.
yeah,
Patriots Deflategate year was 2016.
yeah, so the Patriots was that
The Super Bowl was in February of 2017 against the Falcons, but the
okay,
2016 years,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, people just go back to that all the time.
it was
Um
pretty.
yeah, obviously I couldn't have it on here because LeBron won. Um I will say of all the sleeve jerseys, those Cavs ones were maybe the nicer one. Like I did like the black with the big
Mhm.
C that worked. I mean, obviously, if they didn't have sleeves, it probably would have been nicer.
Yeah.
Um,
Good thing they don't do it anymore.
yeah, I know that was such a weird, just a couple years in there.
It
All of a sudden, like,
was before Adidas stopped working with NBA, and they must have just been like, we're losing our deal, so we're gonna start going crazy and hope.
yeah,
I don't know
maybe
what it was because two
it was
years later
so
they weren't
weird.
making the jerseys, but
Yeah, that was a weird time.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, this one was going to be on there. Oh, I'm curious because you said maybe the most iconic series of our of our life in general for general people. I'd be curious to run that experiment because I think there's probably one other that you're thinking of maybe, and I'm probably thinking of the same one. And
Mhm.
I would be curious to know which one people would default to.
Yeah. It's just the fact that it's the 73 win Warriors,
Yeah, I just don't know
3-1.
how many and because the Warriors went so many times, I don't know how many people like obviously you love basketball, so you remember that, but I don't know how many people would pinpoint that matched up that those
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and especially because most people when they think of the Warriors being great, they're thinking of when Durant was there.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of people aren't gonna thinking about the fact that they actually won more games
Yeah,
without him.
right.
Um,
So I wonder if people aren't taking that into account when they think of that series.
maybe,
If you're
but
just like asking random people.
yeah, but it is the fact that it was 3-1 and they came back,
Hmm.
that does it. The fact that LeBron won in Cleveland does it, especially because LeBron is unfortunately the best player of our generation by a mile
Yeah.
and the most well-known basketball player. Like Steph Curry's gotten up there, but LeBron is been the face of the NBA. And then it's the most iconic play of his career
Yeah.
happened game seven. Um,
Yeah.
the most iconic play that he made, I will say, of his career happened game
Right.
seven.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. If I was not, if I did not dislike LeBron so much, maybe it would be on here, but it's not for me.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So you have,
so I gave my one, my two, and my four. So I have three and five left.
all
I'll
right,
let you
let me,
decide which
let
one
me
would you
pull it up.
rather.
I want you to give me five, but I want to see if I can guess what it's going to be.
Okay. Do you want me to say it or do you have a guess in your head?
I do.
Okay. For me, 2019.
Oh.
And similar so it was four and five was between obviously 2021 and 2019. I just wasn't sure which was going to go where. I
Mhm.
settled on 2019 being fifth because 2021 is more of a refreshing
Mhm.
sort of feel to it, right? We talked about two different teams that
Right,
we
right.
haven't really seen, definitely not in our lifetime. But 2019 was great because
LeBron.
it marked the end of that like Warriors and Cavs era where the Raptors went all the way and they got it done. And it was like, okay, someone has ended
Yeah.
that,
Also,
dynasty, not just of the Warriors, but just that period. Like, and I remember, talking to friends who, it's like we were saying, how I'm not a huge basketball person
mhm,
and I dislike LeBron so much. People who did not care about basketball and were still really annoyed that the same teams kept making it. Like,
mhm.
just as people who like sports in general but don't care what happens in basketball, they actively were disliking what was happening in
Yeah.
basketball because of just kind of how it was coming off as for the sport.
Mhm,
So for the Raptors to get there, um, it was cool to see a team from Canada actually do something in our
mhm,
lifetime because we haven't seen that in
mhm.
any other sport, including and especially hockey with Toronto up until this year. Um, it was cool, and then Kawhi, it was cool to see him like lead a team
He
to a
was
championship.
phenomenal.
That's probably his, I would say, like defining. Although he hasn't quite followed it up. I would say necessarily like he's kind of.
He's only been healthy in the playoffs one time since that
Yeah.
year. So,
So I really thought that was going to be like his coming out party where he was going to all of a sudden be like a top five guy in the league. Um, but yeah, I those, there's something about Toronto has a great fan base. As much as I dislike kind of the way that they are on the internet a lot of times, the people that go to the games are phenomenal. They create a phenomenal atmosphere. I drafted the Toronto arena for my NHL arena. Um, and it's just it was a great atmosphere. I feel like when
mhm,
they were in the finals, and it finally obviously the Warriors ended up getting back last year and doing it, but it at least felt like okay, we've had the break now. They're just another team that has gotten here before. It wasn't like that. Just
mhm,
you know, it was just getting boring. Of
mhm.
like okay, Cavs and Warriors, Cavs and Warriors, Cavs, and then it was like okay, Raptors,
Yeah.
interesting, and then they actually won it, so that was cool too.
Yeah. And LeBron had made the finals the previous 8 years as well,
Mm,
which was tough. Um, yeah, this was in my honorable mentions. Um, I, like you, loved that it was something new. I hated the Cavs Warriors and especially the last two where it was Cavs Warriors, but you knew the Warriors were going to win easily. Um, this was really cool. It was cool to see Kawhi really put a stamp on it, which is crazy. Like he had won a Finals MVP already at that point in his
right.
career, but he won it on the Spurs in 2014, where they just played such phenomenal team basketball
Yeah.
that he played amazing. But this was him actually, he's scoring like crazy, defending. Um, and there's no question. I mean, he had already been a top five player in the NBA, but in that finals run, it was like he's the best player in the league, and and there's when he's healthy, he is a top five player in the NBA without a question. It's just unfortunate that he's never been healthy for a season since that year. And then you couple it with you had some really great games. Game six was a great game. Steph had a three, I forget how much time, but had a chance to win the game pretty much, and missed it. Game six, the Warriors kind of came back and won at the end. It was a great game. So phenomenal series in my honorable mentions. But
Cool.
I feel like
Was
I'm gonna,
that what you thought I was going for?
no, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Give me a second. Sorry, the allergies are killing me out here, man.
Yeah, the allergies are bad this year for sure.
Um, no, I didn't think you were gonna say that one, but if I thought about it, it would have made sense.
Okay. Um,
I'm intrigued. I have I have an idea of two that you might do it. Whenever you have a three, I'm
what do you have left?
okay. So I just have
Number
number
one?
one. Yeah, let me blow my nose so I'm not
Okay.
a bastard.
Number one for you. I mean, I feel like I should be able to pick out what it's going to be. I
All
think
right,
maybe I can.
all right. This is the easiest one for me. I
Okay.
think definitely the best finals of our lifetime.
Okay. Is
No,
it? Hang on. Uh, 2012.
that was disrespectful. That was disrespectful. The only time I've ever watched my favorite team in the finals, they lose in 5 games. No, that's not what it is. It's 2013.
Yeah.
Spurs and Heat go 7 games. Um, I don't know how you can. I feel like it has to be the best. I said the block was the most iconic play of LeBron's career. The other one that's up there, which he doesn't make, but it's the three that Ray Allen hit to send the game to overtime in Game 6 uh, for the Heat, which everyone talks about. That shot saved LeBron's career. Um, the game was over. The Spurs had won the series, and they lose it. Crazy shot by Ray. The Heat win in overtime, and they come back, win a really great game in Game 7 to win the series. Um, just two phenomenal teams going at it. I hated the Spurs at the time as a Thunder fan, but now I respect everything about their organization. Like Tim
Mhm.
Duncan is got to be one of my favorite superstars ever. Popovich is just a phenomenal coach, and the way the Spurs played basketball, it's the best brand of basketball there is to watch.
Yeah.
And so 7 games. I don't know how you can have another series ahead of it. Realistically, lots of great games. It was a back and forth series um, with some just iconic plays, iconic shots. It's to me, this was an easy decision.
Yeah, that's what I would have picked. That was the obvious. I mean, obviously, that's the one that I was thinking. Like, I do think that there is a chance, and maybe the 2016 series ends up coming out on top. But I think if you were to just poll, say, 100 people on the street, what is the most iconic final since 2000, right? This one I think goes pretty close.
Mm,
Um, Especially because, you know, 2016 maybe gets lumped in a little bit with the other ones because it was just
mm,
Cavs and Warriors all the time. And it's sort of like, yeah, the Cavs won one and the Warriors won a couple, like whatever. Um, Whereas this one I feel like really stood out as, you know, LeBron lost the first one and then just they dismantled the Thunder,
all right.
who probably shouldn't have even been in the finals based on how they performed. And then so this was like the first time that they actually were able to overcome some sort of test and play like a real NBA team and overcome them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know. Maybe this one stands out to people. It would be, like I said, I would be very interested to run that experiment and actually see who kind of what people remember more of. Um,
Yeah,
that's interesting because even in my head, that shot is in Game 7, and
yeah,
like even though you just said it was in Game 6, to me it's still in Game 7.
yeah.
It's just one of those things, sort of like the U.S. beating Russia at the Olympics, where you forget that they're and or like Buckner's ground ball is you forget that they then had to go and win another game afterwards because that feels like
Yeah,
the turning point.
I never think that with the U.S. That's so
Yeah,
crazy. I
yeah,
remember with Buckner, and I imagine I wonder if there are people like that think the Cardinals in 11
right.
walk off to win
Breeze,
the
yeah,
series.
maybe
It
that
was
could be
pretty much the
another
same
one.
thing. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, it very much does feel that way. But it's that's I would be interested to see. I think 2016 would be the most iconic, but this one's has to be two. I think.
yeah.
Um, so all right,
For my final pick,
which one of LeBron's losses? That's what
I'm taking 2014.
I knew it. I knew it.
When he got so this, and here's the reason why. One, like you said, I love the way the Spurs play basketball. I love, love, love watching them play basketball. Um, in any sport, I love teams that move it around like that. I love teams that get involved, get everyone involved, and it was just so pretty to watch. Whenever we would, whenever we would get to play basketball in recess or breaks or whatever in middle school or whatever, I would always try to move the ball around like that. Got some compliments based off of that by some people. But this is also in my mind, right? So you have the decision in was it summer of 2010 or something?
Yeah.
And he goes and he says, "We're gonna win, not one, not two, da, 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 all this stuff," right? He goes, he loses the first one. Then, like we said, he steamrolls them. He steamrolls the Thunder. Um, then 2013, he gets his second one, and you're starting to think, oh boy, they're kind of rolling now. This could be bad. And then they get whooped so badly that it made him abandon that whole publicity stunt and try a new publicity stunt, saying that he's going to go save Cleveland when really it's just because he lost faith in his team because they got beat so badly. And I think it just, I think maybe more than, I think maybe that was probably the first time that you really saw what kind of a fraud LeBron was, and that just exposed him.
Was it the first time?
And I think so. I think in
Losing to
terms
the
of
Mavs, he scored 8 points in a game.
no, but that's in terms of he didn't show up as a player. This is in terms of like
Okay, okay, you're going deeper. I
LeBron
got you.
LeBron just as a fraud. Like
Okay, yeah.
can't keep his word. And then after that he went back to Cleveland and it was like, oh, haha, he's back. And then once that team proved that, maybe they weren't good enough, he ditched them again. And it was like, yep, same old LeBron. And I think it all started right here was when he first got exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And it
The depths of his fraudulence.
yes, exactly. And so I'll always be appreciative to the Spurs for doing that. And like I said, they played great basketball to do it as well, which puts it's the cherry on top of the ice cream.
I was gonna say this is like they dismantled the Heat in that series. Like it objectively was not a good series because it was just so embarrassing. Like as much as the Warriors destroyed him twice, he got swept by the Spurs in '07.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the like there are some numbers where you look at just like the way the Spurs moved the ball and just how easy it was. It's sort of like more advanced stats, but just they ran circles around the Heat, and there was nothing that that Heat team could do. And this is that team, the 2014 Spurs, is I think the best version of basketball that has ever been played by a team. Not that they're the best team, but it's just like that's the most beautiful.
Agreed.
Yeah. So hey, I'm all for that pick. Objectively, your list is terrible, but for what you're doing, I'm a fan of it.
So
So
here's how my list got made.
yeah,
We're taking a little behind the scenes here. For me, basketball started in 2008. So anything before that, not on the list. So that gives us, what is that, 14, 14 seasons maybe to choose
yeah,
from.
something like that.
The Lakers won two of those. Well,
Automatic.
three, but two of those I would have actually considered. So that's down to 12 now. Then you have the two Heat ones. So we're down to 10 available options. Then you have the 4 years of Warriors versus Cavs. So now we're down to so there must have been 15. So now you're down to 7 available options. Then you have LeBron with the Lakers, Disney
Mhm.
Championship, Mickey Mouse doesn't really count. There's even a little note here on Wikipedia that I think means that it's not a real one. So now we're down to 6.
Wait, why is that
And
one not real?
then,
Because of the bubble?
yep, I guess so.
That's ridiculous. But go ahead.
They actually do have a note here that lets you know, just so you don't forget. And then the Celtics, we're down to 6, and then the Celtics lost last year. So now we're down to 5 available options. And so it was really just about ordering them.
That's so funny. I didn't think about how. Oh my god.
So you see how it was very easy for me
Yeah,
to come up
I
with my
can
5
understand.
options.
Wow. Well, I'm glad it was such a simple process for you. I spent extensive amount of times looking at every game of every finals that went at least 6 games. But
Oh man.
hey,
The only research I did was just making sure I had the years in my head correct.
oh my goodness, it's clownery, it's buffoonery, but I love it.
So
Hey,
let's see, my list was
is LeBron your least favorite athlete?
yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. Definitely. Definitely.
When did
Um
it really start? Like, did you despise him before Miami?
well, I definitely did not respect what he did in Miami.
Like going to Miami is the first
I
where there
didn't
started to be an
yeah,
issue.
I didn't really care about it that much. Like wasn't like, wow, I hate this guy now. Um but I was sort of like, well, that was kind of messed up. Because of also like the way that he did it too, right? Didn't
He
he like he
he
rented
put
out
up
a gym or whatever in
he did
like
a live ESPN special. Yeah,
and didn't he like he like brought in
fan. Yeah,
basically like Cavs fans or something like
it was he made like a show out of it. It
It was
was
basically like the Oscars a few years ago when Chadwick Boseman was up for an Oscar after he died, and they like moved that category out of its original spot to be the last category presented, and people were like, oh wow, that's that's probably because
great
he's gonna
gesture.
win and it's gonna be a really cool gesture, and then he didn't win, and it was sort of like, well, what the heck was that about then?
That's crazy. I didn't know about
Um,
that.
yeah, so it sort of feels obviously not the same as someone dying, right? But
Yeah.
in the sense of like you put on this whole thing, and it was sort of like, oh wow, this is going to be really cool. He's going to build up this whole thing and be like, I'm staying. This is my home. Whatever. Like I would have respected him so much for that, and he just did the complete opposite. Formed the like basically like ruined. Like if you want to blame one person for what people were feeling by the end of 2018, it's him. You put it on him.
Well,
Yes,
no,
because he
Kevin.
started the super team.
Yeah, but Kevin Durant's move was astronomically worse. But
But he would not have done that had LeBron not done this.
maybe,
I
maybe.
wholeheartedly believe that. Um, I also think, you know, and maybe this gives you even more incentive. I think if LeBron doesn't do that, the Thunder stay together, and you guys might still be competing for championships to this day, um, instead of basically playing in the G League.
I
So,
will. Okay, okay.
um,
First of all, we made the play in this year. Okay, so second,
oh, we
second,
made the play in.
we were one game under 500. Let's not go crazy. Um, playing in the G League. Second, it will haunt me till the day I die that the Thunder 3 years in a row drafted players that will go on to win MVP, and they have one finals appearance and a loss to show for it. There's you'll never see anything like that in sports.
Hmm.
07, 08, 09, they drafted an MVP and they have 0 rings. That hurts my soul. It really does.
Life of being a Thunder fan. Um, what was I even talking about? LeBron. Um,
Yeah, you're going on an elaborate soliloquy about how LeBron.
um, yeah, the Heat thing I didn't respect, and then also during like the Warriors and Cavs thing was also kind of the turn of like ESPN into basically just LeBron propaganda channel, and so that also was that really got on my nerves where
Yeah,
it would be like, okay, uh, number one top play is LeBron dunking at his son's high school game, and you know oh, we forgot to include that like this team just won the World Series. Well, I guess LeBron, like there was genuinely during that time period a diving catch to win the ALCS, and it was not number one on the top 10 plays because someone dunked. Um, and so ESPN and their LeBron kind of their attitude
it's
towards
pretty
that
bad. It's pretty bad.
was yeah, it was. So all that stuff. So I guess there's not really one moment, but it was just over time. I just got so sick and tired of the narrative around him, and then he just kept doing like sort of being a clown a little bit um off the court. I feel like.
To me, he was so the move to Miami he handled terribly. That's unlikable. Once
Hmm.
he was there, he was very likable in Miami to me. It's then once he went back to Cleveland that I've started to just I can't root for him.
I
Anyone
also
who's a
I also
self-proclaimed
hated
goat,
how
oh,
I hated how he came back and was basically like, everyone worship me. I'm coming back to save you. And it's like, okay, well they've also just got like, oh, I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they just got like the number one pick, two out of the last three or whatever, like whatever this case, right? They got Wiggins and Kyrie and
they had three for number one overall picks in like 4 years.
yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that like you just got spanked in the finals, and look, here's this team with like upcoming superstars, and oh wow, it's my hometown. I can come back and like it's just so fraudulent to me that
He rented out a football stadium when he returned too, just to have like a
yeah,
welcome back party.
yeah,
That's my
and he
favorite thing.
brought in Skylar Gray or whatever, just saying like, tell the world I'm coming home, like basically tell everyone to come celebrate me. It was just so like performative. Um,
Yeah.
and then I also think that was around the time when I started really noticing like the flopping and how he would get like he would dunk it and just hang on the rim and swing around and like whatever, and then some other guy would like try not to land on someone who had fallen, and they'd be like technical, and it was just all everything got boiled down, and he's never really given me a reason to let him out of that
No,
position.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. So, all right, run through the list because that's what this podcast is about, real quick.
um 5, 2019 Raptors over Warriors. 4, 2021 Bucks over Suns. 3, 2014 Spurs run LeBron out of Miami. Two, 2011, LeBron fails to beat Mavericks with his first super team. 2008, Big Three defeats the Lakers.
From 5 to 1, I had 2016 Cavs over Warriors, 2021 Bucks over Suns, 2006 Heat over Mavs, 2010 Lakers over Celtics, and 2013 Heat over Spurs. Solid list.
Two different lists. Two different lists.
Yes, to say the least.
I will say I thought about I've really, really thought about throwing 2012 just in the number one spot just to, just as a little bit of a troll.
Just hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I just thought that would have been fun.
I just want to see them win
I will
so
say,
bad.
I will say I remember playing 2K and stuff like that back then, and the Thunder had those navy alternates, and then the Heat had like the all white ones,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a fun uniform matchup at the time for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, you would always pick the Thunder, so I had to pick a team with like some superstars as well. Um, yeah,
Dark days, man. Dark days.
I know, I know.
They only got worse.
Hopefully,
26
hopefully, let's see. Well, what are the Lakers up now? 3-2.
too.
It would be really, really funny if LeBron blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors with the Lakers,
It would be.
even though technically they're like the underdogs or whatever.
But no, they're
Um,
not.
yeah, it's still LeBron with the Lakers and
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, right? Is he
Yeah.
healthy?
Yeah. No, but he's playing. Got hit in
If
the
you have
head.
LeBron and Anthony Davis on a team, like
Yeah.